Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's May 20th. Have you ever used a knife as a garden tool? Serrated knives are my favorite to use in the garden. The word serrated has Latin origins, meaning saw-shaped. Think of the serrated edges of maple leaves. If you're a thrift shopper at Goodwill, they keep most of the donated knives in a case at the front of the store. You can just ask to see if they have any serrated knives. They're so handy in the garden for weeding and working in difficult spaces like between pavers, or just even wearing out the root systems of weeds through continuous cutting above ground. Here's today's brevities. Today is National Pick Strawberries Day. Last year, instead of annual hanging baskets, I installed hanging strawberry baskets over my herb garden. Between me and my student gardeners, there weren't many strawberries left to bring in the house. Strawberries are members of the rose family, and they're unique in that their seeds are on the outside of the fruit. It's sweet to read those early newspaper accounts of strawberries. In 1843, the New York Daily Herald announced that the first strawberries were selling in Baltimore at 3 to 6 cents a quart for the best. 20 years later, the first strawberries were announced in this adorable account out of Columbus, Ohio. Here's what it said. The first strawberries of the season were visible to the naked eye in Charlie Wagner's show window yesterday. A window, by the way, in which everything new is always first seen in Columbus. Finally, in an article in the Woodstock Mercury, strawberries made the list of notable firsts that bring joy to life. The first strawberries, or first child. The first kiss of love, or first pair of whiskers. These may be ranged among the primordial delights. On this day in 1902, America lost one of its most prominent horticulturalists, Horatio Hollis Hunnewell. He was a railroad financier. When he purchased over 40 acres of land along the eastern and southern shores of Lake Waban, he built a magnificent estate there. He had married Isabella Pratt Wells, and he decided to call his impressive home Wellesley in honor of his wife's maiden name of Wells. The nearby town and college also selected the name Wellesley after conferring with Hunnewell, who was the most generous benefactor of the town. The Hunnewell estate was so large that when the Hunnewell children grew up, 7 of the 9 of them had homes built right on the property next to their parents' original home. Hunnewell added many magnificent trees, including a pineatum with over 325 specimen conifers. Hunnewell made the following remark in 1899. No Vanderbilt, with all of his great wealth, can possess one of these for the next 50 years, for it could not be grown in less time than that. And Hunnewell also installed the very first topiary garden in America. He referred to it as the Italian garden, and it was ideally situated along the shore of Lake Waban. Whenever he had guests, he would have them hop aboard a large, authentic Italian gondola, complete with an authentically dressed gondola man. And they would glide up to the topiary gardens and stop to take a tour. Hunnewell's shores rivaled that of Lake Como in northern Italy. To this day, a century and a half later, the Hunnewell Topiary Garden is among the most spectacular sights in the region. There's one more notable fact about Hunnewell. He was the first person to cultivate and popularize rhododendrons in the United States. On this day in 1913, the first Chelsea Flower Show was held in Chelsea General Hospital. Originally, the Great Spring Show was held in 1862 at the Garden in Kensington. And it was on this day in 2003 that the garden designer Paul Martin won a silver medal at London's Chelsea Flower Show. His garden was called Lazy Salad Days, and he featured 25 varieties of salad plants, beating out 11 other competitors, and he was the only Irish exhibitor. For today's Unearthed Words, it's Song on May Morning by John Milton. Now the bright morning star, day's harbinger, comes dancing from the east, and leads with her the flowery May, who from her green lap throws the yellow cowslip and the pale primrose. Hail, bounteous May, that dost inspire mirth and youth and warm desire. Today's book recommendation is Wild Fruits, Thoreau's rediscovered last manuscript. Thoreau spent much of the 1850s learning what botany could teach him. He brought that knowledge to bear on this sometimes very beautiful essay, and it's printed here for the first time. For today's garden chore, if you don't know where to start, focus on the edges of your garden. Tidying up the edges is a quick way to get an instant, positive, cleaned up look to the garden. Once the edges are addressed, you can begin to move back into the beds where your work may not be as noticeable, but it is just as important. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. On this day in 1846, the botanist Ludwig Leichhardt wrote a letter to his botanist friend Durando in Paris. My dear friend, you have no doubt noticed and regretted my long silence. There was no post to bring me your letters in the wilderness of Australia. Thank God my efforts have met with success, and I was preserved in the hours of danger. 4 of my pack horses were drowned, botanical and geological specimens thus abandoned. How disappointing. From 4,000 to 5,000 plants were thus sacrificed. I hope my next expedition will be a famous one for botany. When I come home, I trust to be laden like a bee, for the Northwest is the district in which to look for a remarkable flora, where the Australian types are blended with those of India. I hear that Humboldt has at length published his Cosmos, but I have not seen the book. 2 years after writing this, in the spring of 1848, Leichhardt, known as the Prince of Explorers, led a small team on a 3-year expedition across Australia. Shortly after they started on their journey, the entire party vanished with barely a trace. Leichhardt was 35 years old when he was lost to time. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org, and be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up, and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.